KBLA Talk 1580. We are unapologetic about amplifying the voices of those who have historically been left out of the conversation. As we approach our third anniversary this summer, the problem with talk radio in Southern California specifically, and America more broadly, is virtually unchanged. All day, all night, all white. We make no apologies for our prime audience, but true to the best of our tradition, we're committed to expanding justice and freedom for all. So when we receive messages from listeners like Neil, we just smile.
I realize that I'm not your target demographic, but I love listening to your station as it is the only progressive station on the dial.
That's us. Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. And it's time for Freedmen Fridays. This is something we do every single week. It is meant to be a comprehensive conversation on reparations to help build momentum. It is meant to help build information, part of what I believe what we need to be as well versed on what's going on so that we can be effective advocates for this important policy. And I'm pleased to be joined today by someone who is well known in this space. He's a Chicago business leader, a real estate investor. He is also internationally known for his work on reparations. In 2014, he was invited to speak on the new paradigm of reparations activism at the 8th Pan-African Congress in Johannesburg, South Africa. He also presented that same year in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on the same subject. He, in 2016, was a key organizer for the United States visit of the UN Working Group of Experts for People of African Descent, and he's been a 16-year member of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, known as NCOBRA, the longest-running organization working on the cause of reparations. It was founded in 1987. He's been chair of their legislative commission for 12 years and worked closely with Congressman John Conyers on the bill now known as H.R. 40. In 2017, he was elected to lead NCOBRA as a national male co-chair, reelected in 2019 for a second term. Kamm Howard, welcome. Good morning. Okay, I hope we're not having any serious technical difficulty. That would be bad. It happens sometimes, but we are working on that.
We
got you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome in. And it's almost like your bio is so long, it's hard to know where to start. So let me start with what I guess I hear the most about in regards to NCOBRA and Pan-African philosophical minds that are involved in the reparations movement, which is why you believe it needs to be addressed globally.
Sure, reparations, the attack on Black people here in this country, the enslavement process we went through did not just happen to us. We were dropped off in what was called the colonies before it was America here, but, there were, millions of people who were of African descent who were part of that process, and some were dropped off in the Caribbean, some were dropped off in South America and Central America, and some even went up into Europe. And so we all, at this particular time, are fighting to receive redress from the crimes of the transatlantic slave trade, or what some call the transatlantic chattelization wars on Africa. And so, that experience shows itself differently among different people in the diaspora away from the continent. And so, we all are fighting to remove those legacies that we experienced and to get compensation, redress, restitution, all of that. And so we stand firmly together because the powers that affected those of us here in the Americas, in North America, also were complicit in crimes against our ancestors in Central America, South America, et cetera. So, we were fighting against the European world collectively, the Western world that engaged in these attacks on the African world. So, yeah, we're definitely in support and in solidarity with the movements globally.
So what does that really look like? I feel like there's a lot of confusion or discord around this, because some of it, I'm not going to speculate, but for example, there was a recent conference in Ghana around reparations. I know that you attended that and you were a big part of it. And there was conversation about a global reparation fund. And explain what that is and how that works in the context of this conversation about reparations being a global movement.
Sure. So, let me go to 2001 World Conference Against Racism and this 680 review conference in 2009. When 2001, there was a World Conference Against Racism held in Johannesburg, South Africa, put on by the United Nations. This was the third World Conference in the history of the United Nations. The previous one was like in 1978. But at this World Conference, three major things came out of that conference. And this was a Pan-African victory. What we wanted the World Conference to determine was originally thought up by a group in New York, December 12th movement. They took those thoughts down to the Caribbean, and they actually made it to the conference, and they were debated on in the conference. And then we had to get the African group of leaders to agree with us, which they did. And we subsequently, the United Nations declared that the transatlantic slave trade in its entirety was a crime against humanity, that there was continued impact from those crimes facing African people and people of African descent all around the world, and that reparations was due, redress was due. So that was a major Pan-African victory. And everything we do in the reparations movement is based on that declaration, that these were not just bad or immoral acts. America tried to say that slavery was America's original sin. No, these were criminal acts of the highest order according to the international community. So all of our reparations activism around the world is based on what came out of the World Conference Against Racism. And so in 2000,
in the modern era, to be fair, right? Because there's
in the modern era,
yeah, because there's reparations activity that happens, during the enslavement period, right?
Right, the modern era, exactly. Post 2001, what we're doing, what's happening in California, what we're doing in America, what we're doing in Brazil, what we're doing all around the world is based on the fact that the international community has declared these to be criminal acts. Those are doing criminal acts, and the players to be criminals. And there's no statute of limitations on crimes against humanity. So the United States government is still a criminal government in relationship to people of African descent. And that is what, we're basing this struggle on. And so when you look at the review conference in 2009, 17 nations walked out of that conference. And all those nations were European nations. Why? Because we were doing some major work globally on reparations. Brazil had a major program of success coming out of the World Conference Against Racism. Zimbabwe has started a economic redress fund, economic redress policy, taking land back that was seized from them during colonialism. And colonialism was also declared a crime against humanity. So we were moving straight forward against the entire European world against the crimes that they had committed. And so the European nations walked out collectively together at this conference. So it's not just we're fighting just against, and America led the walkout, by the way. They didn't even attend the review conference. And so it's not like we're fighting just against one entity, one nation. We're fighting against the entire European world who are protecting these stolen assets globally that they have amassed as a result of the crimes that they committed for over 500 centuries. So when we assembled in Ghana, it was to talk about how we address this European contention, this global European contention against us being redressed in this on this planet. And so the reparations fund that they were proposing is to provide resources to engage in this struggle. It's not to provide resources for reparations, but to provide resources to engage in the struggle, because there's a tremendous amount of legal effort that has to be put in. They're trying to develop a global legal team to address, international legal team to address these European nations in their entirety. And so, these type of things are necessary for the global struggle. But then we have.
So just to be clear, just to be clear, you're saying that Global Reparations Fund that was discussed in Ghana at the conference is meant to be money to support the reparations movement, not money to pay reparations. So
exactly.
where is that money coming from, and who would be controlling it? And because there's so many folks that are, so many organizations and factions and different nations that are working on even cities, counties, states, and then, countries that are working on their reparations. How does that work?
So, the African Union has various organs and structures that kind of has a general purpose for the diaspora or the African world in its entirety. And so, that structure has not been developed. There are few organizations and entities that are attempting to develop that structure. But again, the resources will probably come from some African governments, some African leaders, some people in the diaspora who can bring in resources, philanthropy. There's several sources that and there's a lot of wealthy people on the continent.
No doubt,
wealthy people in America
no doubt. So you're talking about probably coming from resources on the continent of Africa and controlled by the African Union.
Controlled, to be independently set up, but the African Union probably has some type of accountability mechanism built in.
Okay, and I don't want to go too far down this sidebar, but I have to mention, because I was in Tanzania in 2018, going back there again in June, and one of the things I learned so much being on the island of Zanzibar is the depth of the involvement of the Arab world in the enslavement of people of African descent, and the fact that a slaver could have taken, a brother and sister from one interior town, and one goes to the West Coast and gets shipped to the U.S., or whatever it was then, and the other one gets shipped to the Arab world. So is there any, when you talk about global movement or global accountability, is there a factoring in? I mean, that stuff is well documented in
Sure.
Zanzibar. Is there a factoring in of the Arab world in that?
So, for my understanding, of course, we know that the Arab enslavement process was as long as the European enslavement process.
Even longer,
to my
right?
understanding,
Yeah.
Even longer.
Because they have photographs in the slave market museum on Zanzibar. They have photos of enslaved people. It's pretty shattering. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things about, and I'm not certain that I haven't heard any talk about combining the two. One of the things that we're certain about with the European process is that it was unlike any other enslavement process in the history of mankind, where they reduced us to non-human, reduced us to chattel. And so, this particular global struggle for reparations is basically focused on the European chattelization of African people.
Okay. So to be continued on that. We're talking with Kamm Howard. He is with Cobra. He is been working in this space for almost a couple decades now. This is Freedmen Friday. Call it a comprehensive reparations conversation. You're invited in, 800-920-1580. Let's get smarter. Let's get more savvy. Let's continue to build momentum for reparations now. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Your floors can go from clean to dirty fast. From juice spills, whoops, to muddy paw prints, to little sticky finger marks. Good thing your Swiffer Wet Jet works fast too. Swiffer Wet Jet easily cleans everyday messes as quick as they happen. The next mess is right around the corner. So grab your Swiffer Wet Jet and just spray, push, all clean.
Taco Bell just dropped the new Cravings Value Menu. Now you can get 10 items for $3 or less, which means you can get the food you want for the price you want. It's almost like you can have your cake and eat it too. But in this case, it's a double-stacked taco from the new Cravings Value Menu. So basically, you can have your double-stacked taco and eat it too, which is a lot crunchier than cake. The new Cravings Value Menu is here. Get it at Taco Bell today. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations while supplies last. Contact store for price and participation which vary. Tax extra.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Right now, we're talking with Kamm Howard. He is a reparations activist who's been in the space for almost a couple decades now. And he has done a lot of different kinds of work, including working on H.R. 40, which was meant to be a study on reparations and then evolved now to be, well, still a study, but more than that, right? So talk to me about H.R. 40, because where we are now, because a lot of folks that I hear are saying, why do we still need it? California's done this work. Couldn't we go right to, recommendations, legislation, or should President Biden just do an executive order and move the ball now that this momentum has been created and work has been done, considerable work, like the work of the task force here in the Golden State?
So that's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
So, yes.
You can handle it, Mr. Howard. I know you can.
handle it. So H.R. 40 initially was designed by Congressman Conyers after the Japanese legislation that, had a commission to determine the degree of injury that Japanese suffered from the internment of Japanese during World War II. And then subsequently after the commission, then there was a law that actually provided them with redress. The same kind of process California is going through now. So the H.R. 40, John Conyers drafted H.R. 40 to find out, to determine scientifically through research whether or not there was continued injury among current living black people at that time from the crimes of enslavement and Jim Crow. At that time, there was not the scientific or the research and the history and data that's available now. And so that was a major thrust. And then if there was continued impact or legacy, then to craft remedies to address that. In 2015, NARC was developed, and NARC decided to change it from a study bill to a remedy bill because, again, all of that research had already been done. And so we began H.R. 40 from the premise that there was continued impact. The commission had the mandate to look at the period of enslavement, the crimes that were committed during the period of enslavement, and determine the continued impact of those crimes on current living black people, and then craft proposals to address that continued impact. It was then mandated to look at the crimes and atrocities committed against black people during the period of Jim Crow apartheid, then determine what's the continued impact of those crimes on current living black people in this country. Then finally, it was designed or mandated to look at the impact that these current post-Jim Crow crimes have upon our community: mass incarceration, police terror, predatory lending, etc., and then craft remedies and proposals to address those particular continued impact or legacy. And so we proposed to get out of H.R. 40 a master plan of redress. Now, California in AB 3121, it took the mandates out of H.R. 40, one word for word. So when people in California say H.R. 40 is no good, well, that's the same bill that your legislators and your commission and your task force just used to deliberate for 2 years and come up with proposals. So in regards to the California legislation, people are calling me, I'm so sorry. In regards to
tell them they have to wait till after the show, yeah.
They have to wait till after the show. So H.R. 40, so California did a tremendous job. They did things that some people who are very close to presidents in this country say could not be done, particularly around identifying and calculating, monetarily calculating harms. There were people close to the Biden administration who said that could not be done. So California did that. And so, but when we talk about has California, do we need a commission, a national commission, because California already did the work? Well, California did a lot of tremendous work that a commission can build on. But what we want to do is know, in uncertain terms, the continuing impact of 400 years of atrocities among current living black people. And then our progeny is going to come after us if these things are not addressed. And then we want actual proposals. Now, California ran out of time. They didn't actually present proposals, but mostly recommendations. There were a couple of proposals, mostly recommendations. You're getting those proposals now by legislators. And so the commission on the federal level must come up with proposals. So, again, a lot of work has been done by California, but there still needs to be other work done to actually determine the continued impact of 400 years of crimes and have actual concrete proposals. So when the commission does its work, we're totally focusing on resources, funding for those proposals. So H.R. 40 is necessary. Now, it's not going to happen in Congress. We've been working in COBRA. I'm no longer within COBRA.
Yeah, okay.
I started an organization, Reparations United, that goes around the country trying to unite all these reparations organizations around the mission of federal redress. And federal redress at this time is not going to come through Congress. We simply don't have the structure in this country to get reparations passed in Congress. And what do I mean by that? We can pass the bill in the House if the leaders want to bring it to the floor. They didn't bring it to the floor the last Congress, even though we had 217 confirmed votes in the House. We only needed one more vote to pass it out the House, but they wouldn't bring it to the floor for that vote. Even if it had passed out the House, we weren't going to get it passed in the Senate. In the Senate, the way this country is designed, the way the Senate is designed, you need a supermajority to block a filibuster. And a filibuster is you just continue to debate on and on and on and on and on, so it doesn't, go to a floor, come to vote. You need 60 votes to block a filibuster. Well, we have 50 Democrats. I have never seen where you had a 60 majority Democrat, 40 Republican.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, all those conditions are things we talk about on this show every day. So, but what's the bottom line? I mean, I know California, Ronnie Lynn is in the chat saying that the AB 3121 was amended. And I, know that Shirley Weber had her own process and folks she worked with. So whether or not it was identical, I don't even know if that matters. I don't think the question was whether it was identical. It was whether we've studied enough and it's time to move to the phase of, moving legislation, moving cash payments and all that. And you're saying it can't happen in Congress because of the filibuster. So where does that leave us?
That leave us pivoting directly to the president for the executive order. And that's what we're doing. That's why I started the Earn the Black Vote campaign, because we have a tremendous amount of power at this particular time in this country. It's an election cycle, and both parties desperately need the black vote in order to win. If you look at the voting patterns in this country from 1952 on to today, the Republican Party has won the majority of the white vote in every election. If this was a contest only between white voters, the Republicans would have would have led this country for 70-plus years. But it has not been just among white voters. And there was a black vote in 1960 that determined that there would be a Democratic president. We gave this country Kennedy. We gave this country Carter. We gave this country Clinton twice. We gave this country Obama twice. And we gave this country Biden. If it had not been for the black vote, none of those Democratic presidents would have been elected. Candidates would have been elected president. Now, that's a tremendous amount of power, and yet we are not leveraging that understanding, that power, because we don't understand that we have it as a nation of voters. And so right now, we through this continued voting for the Democratic Party, we've amassed unintentionally the fact that we are 20% of the Democratic Party base. White voters, white Democrats are 61%, blacks are 20%, and all other people of color combined are 19%. So we're the second largest block of voters in the Democratic Party. For that, we should get something for it. And so with the Earn the Black Vote campaign, it's saying to the Democratic Party, we're not talking about November. If you want to see a November and a post-November where the Democratic Party is in leadership in this country, we want something now. And that something now is a Reparations Commission. And we say the same thing to the Republican Party. The Republican Party can bring the vote, bring the bill to the floor now, agree not to filibuster in the Senate now, and they could get outvoted.
I mean, we've only got 10 seconds to news, traffic, and sports, but it just sounds highly unlikely that anyone's going to do any of that before an election. Maybe a ball and chain on their neck in the general. But I'll get your reply to that after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Friday with us here on the Black Information Network. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest. Negotiators from Qatar say Hamas has given its initial positive confirmation to a proposed deal that would release hostages during a pause in the Gaza war. Qatar's foreign ministry says Israel agreed to the proposal during a meeting in Paris over the weekend. A senior Israeli official, however, is denying that anything was approved by Jerusalem. In Maryland, Morgan State University School of Global Journalism and Communication is partnering with famed African-American filmmaker Spike Lee to create an extensive multimedia summer internship program. The internship with Lee's 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks and the Gersh Agency talent firm will begin this June. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org. Is this the time?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A surprising outcome for the Lakers last night in Boston. LeBron and Anthony Davis were on the bench in street clothes, but the Lakers won by 9. Austin Reeves had a game-high 32 points. The Lakers shot a season-high 52% from three-point range. Last night was the first time this season the Lakers played without their top two players. No word yet on when LeBron and AD will be back in the lineup. LeBron has a sore left ankle. AD has a sore hip and Achilles tendon. The Clippers are back in action today. They're at Detroit. 4 p.m. tip-off. A.D., Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George were selected as reserves for the Western Conference in the NBA All-Star Game. The game is February 18th in Indianapolis. USC's men's basketball team has lost 6 straight. They lost at home to Oregon last night. Bronny James had 6 points and 7 assists off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got me a damn girl on my team.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe we have the best tag team in morning radio. Dominique DiPrima and Tavis Smiley as the first black woman in Los Angeles to anchor a morning drive talk radio show. Dominique covers local politics like a blanket. Weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., Dominique passes the baton to Tavis Smiley, who talks to everybody about everything every day until 12 noon. KBLA's dynamic duo, Dominique and Tavis. It's no wonder the LA Civil Rights Department is honoring Dominique DiPrima this year at its Tell Our Story honoring black journalist leaders and storytellers event, Thursday, February 8th. Or that the John M. Langston Bar Association of Los Angeles is honoring Tavis Smiley at its 47th Annual Installation and Scholarship Awards Gala with its Community Impact Award on February 10th. We couldn't be more proud of Dominique and Tavis, who make black history every day, not just in February. If you're missing Dominique and Tavis weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Holla, yeah.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great, but with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Did you know COVID-19 vaccines have been updated this season? They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against recent variants, and most people in the U.S. should continue to pay nothing out of pocket for COVID-19 vaccines. Uninsured or underinsured adults can receive them at no cost at participating Bridge program locations, and eligible children can receive them through the Vaccines for Children program at participating providers. For children, COVID-19 vaccines are at no cost, but there may be fees such as for the visit or administration. Book a vaccine option at schedulecovidvax.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You belong here, and I'm glad you are here. However you're tapping in, we're glad to have you. We're talking with Kamm Howard right now, and the conversation is about reparations. It's a Freedmen Friday. We do this every week in the second hour. And I got a bunch of questions. I don't know how we're going to fit them all in before we run out of time here. Yeah, but I guess I should let you respond to what I said right before news, traffic, and sports, which is, yeah, that sounds like a little bit Easter Bunny-ish. That you would get Republicans or Democrats to take decisive action on reparations prior to an election where they're going to be punished for that by white voters. Not all white voters, but many.
Exactly. So what we've demonstrated over the last several years is that there's political will within the Democratic Party for a reparations commission or a reparations study. 287% of all Democratic elected congresspersons on the federal level, congresspersons and senators, supported H.R. 40 in the last congressional session. We have democratically elected leaders all around the country, state leaders like Gavin Newsom, like Dr. Shirley
Right,
Weber.
but you're talking about having them do something now prior to the election on a federal level. I mean, they can't even pass a budget. You think they're going to pass anything about reparations?
The president has the power to do it with his executive pen to establish the Reparations Commission tomorrow. And what we've identified is that there are 2.9 million, 20% of black voters who voted in the last election, it was 15 plus million. 20% have stated that they're not feeling Joe Biden. 2.9 million, saying they're either not going to vote at all in the next election, or they're going to vote third party, or they're going to vote Republican. Biden loses with those numbers. We're telling him his only path to victory, if he wants to win, is through a reparations commission by executive order. He can do that tomorrow. Now, whether or not he believes that and he wants to test black voters and see, but I've seen nothing that shows that these black voters who are not feeling the Democratic Party are going to come back by Biden touting his record. All the Democratic Party has been doing is spending money saying, this is what Biden has done. This is what Biden has done for the black community. Black voters are not feeling that.
Yeah.
Our message to the party is the only way to get these black voters back, and if you don't get them back, you lose, and the only path to getting them back is the Reparations Commission now. Now, we have the power to do that.
Right, and your message, so it's policy over party in the sense that your message to Republicans is pass it, you have the majority in the House, pass it through Congress. For Democrats, it's pass it through executive action. Got it, executive order.
We have to make both parties know that reparations is a central issue for black people in this election.
Got it. Couple things you have that you touched on that I want to make sure we talk about. You talked about this being a global issue and the conference in Ghana and such. Does that mean that you are advocating that Africans in Africa or Africans who are here in the United States should be receiving reparations?
I'll struggle for reparations in the Americas for those who were injured and impacted by the crimes of enslavement, Jim Crow apartheid, and post-Jim Crow crimes in America. Now, when it comes to Jim Crow era crimes, there are certain Caribbeans who were here, and their descendants are still living here. They've been, they've been here for generations. Then they would receive reparations only for Jim Crow era impact, not for enslavement era impact. The majority of all reparations here in the United States is going to go to those of us whose ancestors experienced not only enslavement, but Jim Crow as well as post-Jim Crow era crimes. There are going to be a few proposals that deal with mass incarceration. And if there was an African or Caribbean here who was caught up in the system of mass incarceration along with us, on that limited level, they would also be eligible for whatever type of redress. It might not even be monetary. It might just be something programmatic, like trauma training or free education or something. So those are very minor issues. And people are trying to escalate that to be a major issue in the movement. These are very minor issues. 90+%, 99%, 98% plus percent of the reparations are going to go, that we're fighting for, is going to go to people like myself, like you, whose ancestors were in this country, brought here, kidnapped from the continent of Africa during the transatlantic slave trade period.
So you agree with folks that say, Jamaicans should fight for their reparations from England, and Brazilians should fight from their reparations from Portugal, and that, that each country has their own specific debt that they owe to their formerly enslaved citizens.
And that's exactly right. Brazil shouldn't get, reparations from people from the United States. They weren't enslaved in the United States, and they're fighting. That's what the global reparations movement is about. We're attacking the entire European world that was responsible for the atrocities committed and the continued impoverished nature of people around the world who are of African descent, whether they're on the continent or whether they're living abroad. So, that's the premise of the global movement, is that every person of African descent has a right and duty and obligation to fight against those and demand against those who have put us in these conditions for redress and repair.
Do you think that, your organization now, you say Reparations United, is meant to bring people together, but do you think it's fair to say that many of the elders who have been working in the reparations movement for a long time are dismissive of the concerns, ideas, and really the incredible momentum that has been brought into the movement by younger generations. They may not agree with everything. They may be more, have a stricter definition around lineage, or they may, have a negative impression about Pan-Africanism, but they've done some solid work on reparations. Do you think that there is a dismissiveness that happens, or an exclusion that happens with folks that have been in the space for a while? And if so, how do we get past that?
So I think there is, a perception of dismissiveness, and there is, in some instances, actually dismissiveness because of what I've seen and witnessed with some of the acrimonious manner in which some of the new advocates and new adherents came into the movement. Put all that aside, our organization says we have a mission, and that's federal redress. And no matter what our thoughts are around lineage, no matter what our thoughts are about what form reparations should take cash, should it be education, should it be repatriation, no matter what our thoughts are about that, no matter what our thoughts about what we call ourselves, how we identify ourselves, none of those matter if we don't give federal redress. And so our mission has to be collectively, whether you're young or older, whether you're an elder or whether you're new to the movement, whether you've been in the movement for a long time, our collective mission must be targeted toward the federal government in getting federal redress. And these differences that we have clouds our ability to force this government to act from a federal level right at this particular time. So, that's the message that we're putting out with Reparations United. Right now, we're in a unique position where both parties, we're in an election cycle, and both parties are totally dependent upon the black vote to win. The Democratic Party needs an overwhelming show of voters in the next election in November, and they need about 90% of the black vote, 87 to 90, 99, 91%. The Republican Party needs about 15 to 20%. They are both in desperate need of the black vote in order to win. That's power, and we can leverage that power if we're speaking together. That reparations is the key to our vote in November, and that vote must be earned now before November. We're not going to wait until after November.
I love the continent. I consistently argue that why would we, let go of one birthright, which I believe we have a birthright on the continent of Africa, and here, our 12 generations work without pay. But I don't think having a Pan-African mindset or loving the continent or acknowledging that our ancestors are from the continent is necessarily at odds with the idea that African Americans are a distinct group with a distinct experience that that are deserving of or have a need to be recognized as such. And I guess I'm not understanding why that's so problematic for some folks who consider themselves to be Pan-African.
So, and that's really a mischaracterization of Pan-Africanism.
Okay.
So most Pan-Africanists are also black nationalists. And
I'm not a black nationalist. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, I don't know what I'm just,
And I think that, my dad was a Pan-Africanist and he was a socialist, so I don't know, but okay, maybe that's true. Explain it from your perspective, because I don't know what most people think, but I want to know what you think.
So nationalists believe that black people in this country have a unique identity aside from every other.
But we do. We do. I'm not a nationalist, but we do.
Exactly.
Nobody was there picking cotton with my great great grandma. Nope. I loved Senegal, but nobody from there was over there picking cotton with my great great granny. We have distinct ancestry. We have distinct culture, which is, been exported throughout the world, which is probably the most profitable export from this whole nation.
Exactly.
I don't understand why that's at odds with.
I was bringing the issue of nationalism because nationalism has been saying this for centuries, coming out of enslavement, that we are a unique group. We have a separate identity. We have separate goals and interests than the greater white America. So this is not something new.
Right.
This is something that has been part of the black experience, again, since coming out of enslavement. When those 20 clergymen would ask in 1865, did you want to live among white people and integrate, or did you want to live outside and live by yourself? 19 or 20 said, we want to be by ourselves.
Right.
That was a nationalist thrust. But since that time, the majority of blacks have become more integrationist. Like we want.
Well, what's that? I mean, okay, that's a whole argument we can have on another day. That doesn't, just because I don't want to live next to white people doesn't mean I'm necessarily a nationalist in my identity. But I might want safety. I might want, cultural, distinctiveness. I might want a lot of things.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there's been a shift in this country from 1865 to today. There's been a shift.
Right, understood.
But even in that shift, we still are a unique ethnic group within this country, and there's no question about that. And so that you wouldn't get any disagreement from Pan-Africanists, especially those who consider themselves nationalists as well as Pan-Africanists. You don't get any disagreement. So that's a mischaracterization that Pan-Africans don't believe that we're a separate group and a unique ethnic group in this country, because that has been the foundation of black nationalism coming out of enslavement.
We're talking with Kamm Howard. And when we come forward, I want to hear about this national referendum that you are working on, which is quite a hot topic. We'll look at that and more when we come forward. It's a Freedmen Friday. Reparations Now, KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Can't sleep with this cold.
Honey.
Honey?
Honey, you need NyQuil Severe Honey.
NyQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a dreamy honey taste.
Feeling better, honey? Honey? I'll take that as a yes.
Try NyQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu symptom relief. NyQuil Severe with honey flavor. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever. Honeylicious, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach.
LADWP is proud to partner with KBLA to share with you how to start the new year without bill worries. We're here to help if you're behind on your bill or need help staying current. Sign up anytime online for Level Pay to set predictable monthly payments throughout the year, including for past due amounts. You can also check out the special extended pay arrangements of up to 48 months to help pay down your bill. If you're a senior or income qualified, you may be eligible for Easy Save to receive discounts and also qualify for free and discounted energy and water saving devices. You can get up to $15,000 for past due water and or sewer bills and up to $3,000 for electric bills. But you gotta act fast. Funding is limited. You can reduce your past due bills and kick off the year right, because here at LADWP, we're here to help. Visit ladwp.com/cares today and find out more.
Hello, I'm John McKinney, your candidate for District Attorney. As an African American who has served our community for over 25 years, I'm proud to have successfully convicted the killer of Nipsey Hussle, standing up for justice where it matters most. But my commitment extends beyond the courtroom. I'm deeply invested in youth development. And when it comes to our police, I believe in accountability. It is essential that those who protect us are also responsible to us, reflecting the values and integrity of our community. This election, I ask for your vote. I am John McKinney, and I'm running to be your district attorney. Learn more at McKinneyforLA.com.
Paid for by John McKinney for LA District Attorney 2024.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for all state auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, just speaking to Molly Bell during the break, and I want to wish Molly Bell a very, 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 very happy birthday. Her birthday is on Sunday. She's in the chat saying she's on hold. And it's tough because with my Freedmen Fridays, I only get these guests for 1 hour. I try to address the questions that come up over and over again that tend to be recurring. Molly Bell, Kamm Howard, feels like we're a little bit all over the place and perhaps a little fatalistic. Are we wish Molly Bella happy birthday, by the way, folks, if you're in the chat, if you see her out and about, and we will continue this conversation. But she feels like there's one, an undercurrent of don't vote, and two, an undercurrent of this is never going to happen, and just too much over focus on HR 40 and not looking at all of these other advances, whether it be on the city level, state level, county level, different bills that are being passed and different wins that are happening. Kamm Howard, are you there?
Yeah. So we're in a both and position here in this country for the first time. We can do, state and local, and we can also push for the federal. On the state and local level, there are limited resources. Some cities have more resources than others, but those resources are finite. At the state level, some states have more resources than others, but those resources are also finite. On the federal level, we have the ability to generate enough resources it takes to do the repair if we can build the movement to make that happen. So we do both and. So that's been our position for, decades, to do both and, local, state and local, as well as federal.
So it sounds like what Molly Bella is hearing is not what you're intending to put forth, which is to say don't vote, but you're saying get something for your vote. And I'm assuming because of what, the way you outlined that if former President Trump came with some ironclad contract and was granting reparations, a comprehensive reparations on a federal level, you would say vote for him?
No, because what we're saying is there are two branches of the government that can act now before the election. Trump can't act now. Trump, unless he wants to influence Mike Johnson. The executive branch can act tomorrow. The president, through his executive pen, can establish a commission tomorrow. Then we'll vote for him in November. The Republican branch, the congressional branch, can bring the bill to the floor tomorrow and pass it out of the House and don't filibuster it in the Senate, and we'll vote Republican. Enough will vote Republican.
Regardless of who the candidate. Got it.
Whoever candidate is.
Right. We pretty much know who that's
November. We're saying now.
Right. No. Right. Right. Oh, I got you.
Those who have the power now to act.
National plebiscite. Your national. What is happening with that? What's the point of it, and why is it such a hot topic?
So when we were liberated from enslavement, 200,000 black men fought in the Union Army, 40,000 black women supported the Union Army, and 20,000 black children supported the Union Army in the Civil War, which liberated 4 million black folks in this country. When we were liberated, we were not given the opportunity to say what we wanted, how we wanted to exist status-wise in this country. Did we want to go back to the continent? Did we want to be, land and resources of our own? In fact, we did identify that. We wanted land and resources of our own, or did we want to be citizens of the United States? That citizenship was imposed upon us with the 13th Amendment. We didn't ask for it, but it was imposed upon us. And so the plebiscite, and every people who are oppressed in the nation, who are a particular group within the nation, we're considered under international norms, international law, national minorities. We were here when this country was founded, and our labor was a tremendous benefit to this country. No other immigrant has that particular, and we're not immigrants, by the way. No other group has that particular status except for Native Americans and people who classify themselves as Chicanos of Southwest America. And so as national minorities, we have the ability, we have the right, international right to engage in what we call fight for self-determination. And part of that is declare our status. We want to have a vote to determine how many of us want to fully integrate in America, how many of us want to exercise our second option, is to establish land and resources of our own and self-govern ourselves in this country. Even if we decide to still live in the same spaces we live in, we can still self-govern as a people. That has to be structured and arranged. Or how many of us want to repatriate back to the continent or somewhere else with resources from this government? That's what the plebiscite is all about. It should have been held in 1865. It wasn't. We've seen that this country has not accepted us as full citizens in this country. We still exist as a caste and the lowest rank in this caste system in this country.
Okay,
and so that's what the plebiscite is all about.
We're careening toward the end of the show here. So you want to have this national referendum now in 2024, 2025, or whenever it would be, to let people decide now, all these years later, whether they want a nation within a nation. I don't know if that's an Indian reservation type situation, or whether, like you said, people live where they live now, but they have some kind of sovereignty, whether they want to go leave paid for by this government, or whether we want to continue as part of this country. And I mean, it seems like kind of that train has left the station, no?
No, not at all, because we don't enjoy full citizenship rights. If we enjoyed full citizenship rights, we wouldn't have a need to force this issue. But we don't enjoy full citizenship rights in this country.
Do you mind if I ask you, how would you vote on that?
I am a nationalist. I'm a black nationalist, so I would vote to, but I have leanings toward repatriating to the continent with resources. But as a black nationalist, I would vote on sovereignty within this country, because not all of my family members want to go to the continent, but all of us deserve to have self-governing power in this country. And again, being a nation within a nation doesn't mean we have to move to one central location.
Yeah. That would be a great show to do. I mean, we've only got a minute and a half here, but man, I mean, there's so many issues: infrastructure, water, access to power grid, all that stuff. But okay, exactly. That's interesting. So we've got a minute here. Kamm Howard, what's your call to action, or what is something that we haven't gotten to that you think is urgent in this conversation around reparations right now?
What we have to do and know, without a shadow of a doubt, that we have the power to influence in this election, in every election, federal election in this country, presidential election. And with this power, we can leverage it right now for a reparations commission, for federal redress. You can go to earntheblackvote.net. You can join this movement and, see exactly what we're doing. We're following the president around the country, making sure that he knows that this is his only path to victory. Again, 2.9 million black people, Democratic voters are saying, they're not feeling him in November. His only path to victory is through a reparations commission. And we have to all be saying the same thing.
Earntheblackvote.net is where you want folks to go, earntheblackvote.net, and you want action right now.
Exactly.
Kamm Howard, thank you for joining me this morning. It's a very interesting conversation.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Greatly appreciate it.
And yes, I know I'm always encouraging you guys to call in after Freedman Friday. We're going back to that next week, but we have a very special guest, Daime Arocena. She's an Afro-Cuban singer. Quite amazing. If you haven't heard her, looking forward to it. Never met her before. And so that's up next. But we can continue the conversation online, KBLA 1580. I also want to let you know we have a huge announcement coming up Monday. You want to be here at 6 o'clock Monday morning. Let me just say that. But we've got more straight ahead after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.